My name is Patrick Aurelius Maximilian Gracia Pereira, and I want to address you about the situation in the White House, where Donald J. Trump and Vladimir Zelensky, presidents of America and Ukraine, had a little power struggle. And I requested all the political power of America and Germany. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, do you know that story? Have you ever seen that film called Lord of the Rings? There's this guy who create Master Ring. Right, so I can ask the Bundestag and the White House, all the officials, to lend me their power and their authority and their birthright and their social credit score, whereby I can unite the power of America and the power of Germany, including my own, don't forget that, to speak clarity into the situation, because there is no more clarity in the situation. I judge that it is necessary for a special interference, special emergency intervention time. Ladies and gentlemen, we are facing something which is called the rise of a rivaling empire. Yes, so that everyone can understand political science. The rise of a rivaling empire, the United States doesn't like that. In the White House, they want to keep what is known as United States hegemony. I think that's what they call it over there. And the rest of the West, you don't really, you have to choose between two evils. I understand what you're facing and what you're thinking, smaller nations out there in NATO land. What's happening in America is not ideal, but what's happening in BRICS nations, that is far from ideal. So it's like you're forced. When you open the media in the West, you kind of see that Europe is being overmastered by America and is tolerating that because it has no other choice. So we're entering a timeline of humanity where, people are choosing the United States because they simply don't have another choice. People are tolerating whatever the United States is doing because you don't have any other choice. The other choice is being ruled by Vladimir Putin. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think you people want to be ruled by Vladimir Putin. Is any one of you interested in that? Well, if not, then listen to what I have to say. Emergency intervention. Yes, there's a certain spiritual problem here in the West. There is a certain force that comes out of the rivaling empire that seeps into the West and messes with the minds of the people, including the politicians. Some of them are aware of it and intentionally do it because they have pro-Russian feelings, and most of the time that is because they're unhappy with life. They're unhappy with the way the things go here in the West, so then they have these feelings against America or against the West in general, and then the quote-unquote spiritual force on the other side, yes, I would call that the spirit of death, Hades, the power behind a cursing. Yes, do you all hear me? This is like you all play the game on a three-dimensional level, but I'm looking at this thing on another, let's call it, beyond the time. It's more of an administration of karma. Action-reaction. So I can see the action-reaction layers of reality, and you just go through the action-reaction day and night, living out your karma versus seeing your karma. So I'm giving you the opportunity to see your karma, and then you can live out your karma and, intertwine the two and understand, ladies and gentlemen. So I am going to slowly introduce you to the battlefield. The battlefield goes as following. So you always have dominating world empire on the world. It used to be the Greeks, and then came the Romans, and the Germans, and then the British, and now the Americans. So that's a little issue, because the moment you are that which I just defined, you command the timeline. There's a certain timeline. And the United States White House is the center point of this timeline. That's called birthright. America has the birthright to be what Greece used to be what Rome used to be what Germany used to be what Britain used to be. I have to drill this inside of you because you need to see the bigger picture. So there is a certain timeline which I would consider the SWIFT transactional system. I repeat myself. The SWIFT transactional system. Every word I say in this podcast has value. Do not neglect any part of the value, otherwise you will not see the bigger picture. So we have a game of honor in this timeline that the United States is leading. The quote-unquote good guys. You know, back in the days, the Greek brought the philosophy into the world, and the Romans brought civilization into the world. The Bible says that God allowed Rome to take down the Jews that killed Jesus, to civilize the barbarians. You know what I mean? It is that civilizing authority timeline. You know, and then the Germans did it with the Reformation, and then the British did it with the British Empire. You know, and now the Americans are doing it through whatever means they're doing it. Yes, hold the thought and let me build frame by frame these thoughts in your mind, and you will see the bigger picture. Yeah, so there is a division of honor in this civilizer timeline on the earth, which is the world empire timeline on the earth. So every single person involved plays his or her role in this timeline. This is a particle game. And all I'm showing you, the center of this particle game is the White House, and the center figure of the White House is Donald J. Trump. So Donald J. Trump is on a giant spider web, and he is in the center of it. And I am showing you, I can decode the entire spider web, and I see all the particles. Right? This spider web is called the SWIFT transactional system, using metaphorical language. So there is something coming into it which is called accursing. You know, that's called rivaling empire. So when the karma is bad, the empire declines, fortune runs out, and misfortune increases. It is positive and negative. It is a duality. When you're doing right, you will go up. When you're doing wrong, you will go down. Karmic universal laws. So the fortune of the West is running out, and the fortune of the rivals of the West is increasing. I will prove this to you. Look at the situation in the White House between Donald J. Trump and Vladimir Zelensky. Blocked. No progression. Vladimir Zelensky is calling to the White House, please let me come back. And Donald J. Trump says, no. The timeline is halting. There is no progression in the battle against Vladimir Putin. It is running dry. The slow motion mode of the SWIFT transactional system. And it makes people panic. And I can see this, whereby I start a special emergency intervention operation here. Yes. So the SWIFT transactional timeline is this web I'm speaking of. And the center point of the honor is this Donald J. Trump in the White House. And everyone else here in the West is playing a particle game. So Donald J. Trump made a decision, and unanimously everyone condemned it. Donald J. Trump said A, and the entire West said B. You know what I mean? That is unique. every single authority in the West has chosen the side of Vladimir Zelensky, indirectly opposing and condemning what Donald J. Trump has done in the White House, whereby I declare to you that reality here in the West, this timeline I'm speaking about, this world rulership timeline, is just people are doing the exact opposite of what the White House wants them to do. It is complete and utter chaos. And the chaos is not just, all over the place and not understandable. No, the chaos is very understandable. Everyone is against Donald J. Trump in this battle that is going on right now, because it's a power struggle. Vladimir Putin is, of course, the winner of the power struggle, and many people are letting Donald J. Trump know that. So when you open the media, social media, whatever media, you see all the particles, ladies and gentlemen. Professor of this, professor of that, university this, university that, this opinion, that opinion. Every politician has the opinion. All the particles of authority in the swift transactional timeline is kind of declaring Donald J. Trump ally of Russian agenda. That is too much. The web, so to say, this timeline of the West is literally saying that Donald J. Trump is intentionally assisting Russia. So I'm not saying that Donald J. Trump is innocent or guilty. I am saying when you watch at the way how the West is, how the particles, you have to understand, this is a percentage game. When honor is summoned to fight the battle is fought through an army. And this army has particles, a hierarchy. This is the swift transactional system. And all this honor is divided among nations, and all in front of the United States. And the center of the honor said, this needs to happen. And the rest of the honor said, no. Right? That is, I don't know how a parliament would define such a situation. I would define the situation as an emergency. This is an emergency situation, I would consider this, but that's just my opinion. All right, so there is a certain timeline, which is the civilizer of the Babylonians timeline on the earth. It's like how you see in the Bible, the Roman Empire went after the killers of Jesus, the Jews. The Jews, their souls became so weird and so negative that they rather would have a murderer in their society than Jesus Christ. So Jesus Christ died for the sins of humanity, and it was the will of God that Jesus Christ would pay the sins of humanity through dying on that cross. However, the souls of the Jews that made it happen, they were so rotten and so dark that the Romans who tried to reason with the Jews could not reason with the Jews. The Jews were so blinded by their hatred that they'd rather have a Barabbas criminal murderer in their society than just a figure who heals people, a figure who opened the eyes of the blind. The pride and the jealousy and the envy and the vaingloriousness, all these negative energies in the Jews became so dark that a rivaling power showed up called Roman Empire. And this rivaling world power, that's what we're talking about. That's the timeline that I'm showing you. So this timeline is aimed at something, ladies and gentlemen. So I know that I am Equalizer of Germany, and I know that Germany does not have the birthright to rule the timeline. Yes, I know. But I have received the power of America and Germany, whereby I can take this position for the sake of this podcast, for the sake of your enlightenment, for the sake of slowing down the damage that Vladimir Putin is doing to the West. Ladies and gentlemen, so there is an opposing timeline. Yes, this is the battlefield. So in this battlefield, you have all these Western nations, and all these nations have their own destiny, and there is a hierarchy among these destinies, and that is the web. And Donald J. Trump is the center of the web. One nation under God. That means the hierarchy system in the United States is a God-ordained hierarchy system. So Donald J. Trump has, for whatever reason, the most favor from God in the timeline. So the timeline of the West is a division of honor, and Donald J. Trump simply has the most of that, which is a combination of his personal deeds and the deeds of his ancestors and the deeds of his nation. All these nations here in the West have a history. Look at the history of Germany. It has good and bad sides, The history of America, lately, it's having a couple of very ugly sides. Every nation has its ups and downs. It's just the way it is. Look at the Bible about the story of Israel. That nation has a lot of ups and downs. It is just the way it is. And God keeps account of these ups and downs and creates this division of honor in the timeline of the civilizer of the barbarians. So who is the barbarian? Everyone agrees on that. I don't have to explain. That is called Vladimir Putin. With imperial ambitions. Always going to that victim mentality. Russian aggression. So let me enlighten you on power. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is timeline, city-state of Lübeck. Yes, Chinese Azure Dragon Throne timeline, 5,000 years old. Purified the curses, familiar spirits, dead bodies, rival curse, and then the curses over the city, and then the curses over the country, and then the curses over humanity, and so I became world champion, avenger of God. All these battles against these curses, all this negative karma to find the future, which is called being in the quote-unquote positive. Having blessings, yes. And not being blessed because of what the forefathers have done, but having a real-time account of blessing. And the blessing just means the power to make a difference in the timeline. So we're having a force in front of us which is called the accursing. The karma of the West creates a timeline where Vladimir Putin and whoever's joining him is getting a foot in the door in the destiny of the West, hindering us. Like how you see what's happening in the White House is hindering to the process, that Ukraine is doing against Russia. So this hindering power is the accursing power, and whoever has energy in his soul that is positive can push Russia back, push back the curse with a blessing. That's the game on a most elementary school spiritual level. So I'm going to show you the battlefield. United States is the leader in this timeline, as explained. And there is a division of power in the United States. You have the Make America Great Again Trump movement. And then you have the Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Woko Loco America movement. So Trump is in office and had his first cabinet meeting. That means the overwriting of the United States has begun. I'll explain that to you. You need energy. You need the blessings. And how do you acquire that? By doing good. And, your forefathers can do good and you can inherit good. It's called the generational blessings. So the woke side of America, let's call them America 1.0, have a big giant pot of spiritual gold whereby they can force their way in the American destiny. This spiritual pot of gold is gone. And God Almighty gave a second chance to Donald Trump and the MAGA Americans. And the Holy Spirit of God, through the church, has civilized the MAGA Americans in such a way that they are no longer cursed. And then Donald J. Trump entered the White House again. And now the MAGA Americans are fighting familiar spirits, dead bodies, rival curse, and then America 2.0 begins. That's the energy that I am speaking. First generational positive energy, not inherited to the generational line. The future, ladies and gentlemen. So Donald J. Trump in the person is just a particle of the MAGA movement. those behind him are far from having purified their familiar spirits, rival curse, and dead bodies. Donald J. Trump, just like me, has overcome this karmic account and is in the positive. Not in great positive. Do I sound like great positive? I don't know. But Donald J. Trump in the person might be able to force his way, just like how I in the person can force my way. But the MAGA Americans can't force their way. They're still battling, and Donald J. Trump is assisting them, or is supposed to assist them, in this battle. And once the American MAGA people have overcome this karma, their energy will rise. And then the average American energy will rise. The MAGA American energy will rise. And that will rise to the brain of Donald J. Trump, and Donald J. Trump will become stronger. So America is not going anywhere. Do you hear me? America does not have any blessings. America has a birthright to have a certain position, but there is no energy. It's at a standstill. Donald J. Trump, his positive karma, first generational, is not that strong to help all of MAGA America and entire America going forward in this destiny of civilizing the barbarians. America is at a standstill, and Donald J. Trump has just enough energy to get up and walk. Hello, United States. I'm exposing your weakness to the entire West, perhaps to the entire world. But this is the reality in the United States. So here in Germany, you have a similar reality. You know, Merz, who won the elections, is going to enter the Bundestag in, 2 months, 3 months. And then Germany is also out of energy, because Merz is not yet at the point where he purified his familiar spirits, his dead bodies, and rival curse, whereby Germany will come to a standstill. Today, Germany is still able to fight the barbarians because of the generational energy that is still in the current German president, and in the current German chancellor, and in the current German woke people. German woke did not spiritually bankrupt like American woke, but it is bankrupting. It is walking on its last feet. The German destiny is walking on its last feet. So I'm just showing you the entire empire, okay? And these are the two powerful players in the empire. And then we have Britain and France, but next to them, let me ask you this question. Who are you? What are you going to bring to this battle against Russia? Exactly, right? I don't want to hurt your feelings or your insensitivities. I'm just trying to keep you in reality. When powers like America and Germany cannot continue the battle, what is the rest of the West going to do? So I am showing you the bigger picture. This is how Vladimir Putin, with these BRICS nations, are able to literally jam shut every progression, because there are no more blessings. Yes, the German blessings are running out in perhaps 2 or 3 months. I don't know how many blessings you have in other nations, like Sweden, Norway, Finland, Austria, Switzerland, France, Spain, Italy. How are you doing? How does your society look like? Do you feel that you're blessed? Do you feel that problems are being solved, or are problems only compounding? Where is this going, ladies and gentlemen? So sooner or later, all over the West, these generational blessings are going to run out for everyone in the West who's woke. Your country will go to a complete standstill. There will come a rise of an opposition, and God Almighty will allow them to battle their karma. Yeah, great. So they can purify their curses. Oh, wow. And they will rise to power in your nation. And all of a sudden they can start battling, and all the purification process, the whole journey. I've done this. It is not easy. It takes a lot of time. And then all of a sudden they will have positive energy in their soul. And then the timeline can go on with this karmic energy that is able to push the timeline into the front. So our timeline is contracting and slowing down. And the one in front of the timeline, United States, is already slow. It's already at stop. It catches everyone's attention. So the whole West is in idealism, trying to get Donald J. Trump to choose Vladimir Zelensky. All the generational energy inside of the entire West is summoning all these individuals, their honor, to talk with Trump and ostracize him for what he did in the White House, as if Donald J. Trump made a mistake. Yes, so do you want to hear final judgment? Did Donald J. Trump make a mistake? I will show you the truth. Yes, America does not have any generational karma left. There are no generational blessings in the United States. And MAGA America is no longer cursed, but does not have blessings. Donald J. Trump might have overcome, but he doesn't have enough blessings to overpower everyone's negativity. That is the truth. So what Vladimir Zelensky has done is he went into the entire West and started to service you all. So he took these weapons, he took those weapons, he took this money, he took Westerner generational energy. He took it here, he took it there, and he started shooting at your condemnation, West. So Vladimir Zelensky timeline is at this moment of time more effective in the mission, which is called the war against the barbarians. This is the mission. This is what the timeline that I am describing is supposed to do. There is a big, giant fucking boogeyman out there. A huge fucking monster. Yes. Just like in World War II, there was a huge fucking monster. And people were too busy making peace deals. And all of them were outchessed. Okay? Now we have another maniac out there. And what is the West doing? You don't want to battle directly, so you sponsor Ukraine to battle indirectly. So all that generational energy concentrates in Vladimir Zelensky. Yes, so he has generational karmic energy inside of his soul of a level that nobody in the West has. And Donald J. Trump might be in the karmic positive first generational, but that cannot match the type of generational energy from the Western nations that Vladimir Zelensky has in his soul. Okay, let's be real. I'm making these podcasts. I'm aiming at Vladimir Putin. I am exposing Vladimir Putin. And behind the scene, I am chessing against Vladimir Putin. But who of you is equipping me with whatever I need to destroy that man? Nobody is. So instead of helping me fight Vladimir Putin, what is actually happening, people are trying to keep me under control. People are trying to discipline me. People are scared that I'm going to abuse power. People are limiting me. It is just the way it is. And I'm not complaining. I'm just saying how this works. So I am using my power to fight Vladimir Putin, the bad guy. I can see what he is. That is Putler. Don't make deals with fucking Putler, because he will use those deals and he will make a new strategy. He is a curse upon the West. He is going to end Westerner homogeneity. He's going to end American empire. That is what he intends to do. You can ignore these words and think you know it better, and you can play with the beast, and the beast will bite you. All right? That's just the way how I work. So how much damage am I actually doing to Vladimir Putin right now? Perhaps in the minds of the Westerners a lot of damage, but I'm not doing real damage to Russia. So the White House, the timer of the White House is doing more damage to Russia than I'm doing. But I'm right behind the White House. City-State of Lübeck is right after the White House, the second organization here in the West who is doing real damage to the fucking business of the Kremlin. However, I, nor America, is actually doing the commission, the mission. And the mission is to fight the barbarians. Vladimir Putin is using generational blessings of all the Westerner nations in his soul, and he is killing your curses. Yes, Vladimir Putin is spending so much energy on trying to conquest Ukraine, spending so much manpower that more manpower needs to be summoned. Yes, all those soldiers were naturally going to come here in the West and start fucking with you, individual nations. So Vladimir Putin's demons are being killed by Zelensky. He is doing what the Commission tells him to do. He is fighting the barbarians at a high price. So his energy levels, his timeline is more effective than the timeline of Donald Trump, and even more effective than my timeline. So Vladimir Zelensky is not officially the most powerful Westerner, but theoretically he is 2 steps in front of me, and he's 1 step in front of Donald J. Trump. So the system, yes, the matrix of the West, the individual particles of honors, are unanimously reminding Donald J. Trump of the social credit score of Vladimir Zelensky, which is so powerful it can overshadow the White House. So yes, it is the way how Donald J. Trump treated Vladimir Zelensky is a piece of evidence that Donald J. Trump is living in a space of misinformation, in the sense one can be American and one can sit on the throne here in the West and think, what can go wrong? We are the leaders, we are the best. And then you go into this arrogance and this carelessness. So many nations in the West expose the carelessness of Donald J. Trump. Donald J. Trump's make a plan, and the rest of the West looks at the plan and go like, have you spent some time on trying to professionalize this plan, or are you just sucking this out of your thumb? So it's all carelessness and it's all arrogance. And this personality issues that Donald J. Trump is suffering has alienated Vladimir Zelensky. And because Vladimir Zelensky is actually in the danger zone, of course, he's even willing, to dance to the tune of Donald J. Trump and become even more submissive and start begging, no. Let me have another meeting, right? It is ironic that J.D. Vance commands of Vladimir Zelensky to have more gratefulness. I don't understand what it must be to be an American in elite power and have that American arrogance without intending to hurt your feelings. I am only intending to wake you up so that you understand what is blinding you. I suggest that Donald J. Trump picks up the phone and invites Vladimir Zelensky and remembers, America, you might have a woke establishment who's out of power, but the rest of the West still has a woke establishment with generational blessings who function as oil in the engine. And the fighting against the barbarian destiny of the West is at this moment of time fueled by that engine. And Vladimir Zelensky just has the most oil percentage of honor, because all these bloodlines here in the West gave that to him. Democracy gave Zelensky all this generational energy. And democracy gave Donald J. Trump the top position. But Donald J. Trump just has this little bit of positive energy. Vladimir Zelensky has a huge amount of generational energy. And yes, it will sooner or later run out. Yes. Just like how Joe Biden's generational energy ran out. So Olaf Scholz's generational energy is running out. And everyone's generational energy in the West, endgame the West, your generational energy will run out. And those who are like Joe Biden and Olaf Scholz, after the energy runs out, you will become accursed. And you will fight your curses. And your curses will draw in timeline, bricks, rival system. Yeah, this is a complicated affair, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want to scare you, but this generational energy, when it runs out, Vladimir Zelensky just has the most of it. It's overpowering. It's like a legendary type of power. I tell you the truth. This thing can overpower White House. I am right behind White House. This man overpowered you all. It is just the way it is. I'm the speaker of the truth here. When this generational energy runs out, one country after the other, also Zelensky will sooner or later run out of this energy. The karma comes back. The gracelessness comes. So Joe Biden and the Americans that are woke are going to live under gracelessness. Just like Olaf Scholz and those in Germany under woke are going to enter gracelessness. The whole West is going to enter gracelessness. That means the curses are going to fall upon you. Yeah, and, this rivaling empire, BRICS, is going to administrate those curses. So these woke people with generation energy are now boosting the timeline a little bit. But there come a point that they're going to actually endanger the timeline because God's grace over them is going to be withdrawn because of the generational account going to zero. And then the oppositional power, like Donald J. Trump in America and Merz here in Germany and all the other oppositional power that become mainstream soon. Yeah, you're going to battle your familiar spirits, dead bodies, rival curse until you go in Destiny 2.0 with a first generational positive energy, and then you can intervene. The timeline is coming to a halt, and look at me, I'm intervening because I still have that energy inside of me that I did not acquire by generational account, but by what I'm doing right now, ladies and gentlemen. Sooner or later, the West is going to be full with people who can generate positive karma by doing what they're doing right now. That means skills. Skillful people will rule this place when the blessed and privileged people have destroyed this place.